Hello everyone, I am Samuel and welcome to Louisiana. Today, I'm going to be telling you about this truck, a 3rd gen Toyota Tundra, and I'm going to be telling you what it's like to have driven it for the past 6 months. Now, you probably already know, it's got a V6, it's twin turbocharged, it's got 4-wheel drive. That's not the stuff I'm here to tell you about today. I'm going to tell you all of the little quirks, what it's like to have driven it, what all the little controls are like, and just the weird little things I've noticed, and the stuff that you probably want to know too, if you're interested in this vehicle. So with that, let's get into the video. Yeehaw! I do need to give a disclaimer. I don't tow things with this vehicle, and in fact, if I haul something, odds are it's a mountain bike. So that's where most of my experience is coming from, just driving this vehicle. So now I'll start telling you some of my opinions on it. So if you want to know about this vehicle, you have the updated headlight design, you have fog lights down here, and you have running boards, which are really nice. They're in a nice spot actually to get inside of the vehicle, which is where we're gonna start. Now, a lot of people don't think much about the interior of a vehicle, but that's where you spend most of your time when you're driving it. And in my opinion, that's kind of what matters the most, because the experience of being inside the car is kind of what makes it or breaks it for most people. They're not just looking at it from the outside the whole time. The first thing I would like to point out that I really appreciate is the fact that you have fully manual controls for your air conditioning, for your seats, for your traction control, and your lights. All of these controls are fully manual. Your air vents are manual, and you might be wondering, well, why does that matter? Like, how else would you do it? If you've seen the interior of Teslas or a lot of electric vehicles being produced, your air conditioning controls and your seat controls and all these other controls are actually done by the digital display. And when you're driving, it can be kind of hard to get your finger to stay on the display because there's nothing actually there to support it. So having physical buttons is really important, and I really appreciate the fact that Toyota is still giving you physical buttons for all of your controls. That does bring me to my first complaint, which is all of the trim is this piano black plastic. And I kind of have a little gripe with that. As you see, it shows up everything very well. Dust and moisture all shows up really well on this, and I wish there was a little bit more variety. Like even just something matte or anything like this texture would be a little bit nice in this piano black finish. But if you keep it clean, it does look well. It's just not my first choice for interior trim. Going on from the interior controls to the steering wheel, it has been updated with a lot of nice touches, which I'm very excited about. There is an updated cruise control design, which you control entirely with your right thumb. You don't have a little paddle on the back of the steering wheel like the 2nd generation had. And on the left side, you have all of your media controls. You can also answer and hang up on phone calls from here. The stock design to control your lights is really easy to reach, and everything is marked pretty well to show you just exactly what you're doing with the controls, which not all light stalks are. And the exact same goes to your windshield wiper design. Everything is marked really well, and you know exactly what you're doing when you change things with a really nice tactile response, so it's easy to do with 2 fingers while you're driving. Speaking of manual controls, the center console is really nice. You can click it open like this. You also have a tray that slides back to get straight into the interior compartment. However, Toyota is still putting these little trays up top, which just makes you want to take things, throw them down in the tray, and if you forget about it and you open up your center console, now stuff is in the back seat. I wish there was just like something solid here, or maybe just a better design so stuff doesn't go flying out. Like even a little cargo netting over this would solve that problem, but that's a really minor complaint. And you have plenty of places to charge your phone. There is a USB port right here, and then inside of the console, if you just slide this back, there are 2 ports, a standard USB-A and a USB Type-C. You can use whatever kind of cord you have. And in a really incredible design, after you slide this tray back and pull your cable out, it still fits underneath that tray without being cramped or pinched. Directly in front of the center console, you have all of your controls for the driving mode, which is done by this knob, which can change you from sport to normal to eco mode. And you have your controls for 4-wheel drive to the left of that. I do really like having physical controls for the driving modes, because if you're changing those a lot, it's a lot better than some other designs of cars where you have to go into like menu settings to change the driving mode. So it's really easy to reach just with your hand. You reach straight down and adjust the mode that you want to be in. The last thing I want to talk about in the center console with your driving controls is the brake hold assist. The brake hold assist on Toyota is super nice. However, it can be a bit confusing with the physical parking brake being right here and the brake hold being directly above that. It was kind of hard to figure out how to use it at first, but you click this button when you're on, that turns on your automatic brake hold, and then underneath this you can pull on for your emergency parking brake. And the parking brake leads me to my next complaint, and that is how sensitive the emergency parking brake is. So there's a really nice backup camera and a really nice warning system in the sensors of the vehicle. However, when the emergency parking brake is activated, it is super sensitive to literally anything behind you, to the point where I think it's a bit overly sensitive, and I end up turning it off more than I have it on. So the vehicle's in reverse right now, just with my bike on the tailgate as you saw earlier, and since the radar is seeing that rear tire, even though as I back up the tires kind of move with the truck, I've had to engage this parking brake more times than not. So the good news is there's a really easy control right here just to turn that parking brake off, and it tells you in the dash the emergency parking brake is off. You turn it back on like that. However, it's just really frustrating when your emergency parking brake turns on by literally anything behind you. I've even had it get triggered by tall grass. So that's a really minor complaint, but I feel like in a pickup truck where the odds are you're gonna have something that you're towing in a trailer, something gonna be behind you, you just have something on the tailgate, whatever it is, this parking brake being that sensitive to emergency activate is a little bit frustrating, and that's why I just keep it turned off. So you should be aware of that. Now the next thing I want to tell you about is this rear view mirror design, and it has something really, really amazing on it that I've never seen before, but it is a actual game changer. On the bottom of the rearview mirror is this little thumb tab, and it's just enough to put your thumb on and adjust the mirror in a much more precise way than just grabbing the mirror is, because it gives you a little bit more leverage to put it in exactly the position you want. But here's the downside. I'm 6'1", and when I have the correct position that I like to drive the truck in, where I'm at a really normal height, I do like to look down over the hood just a little bit, but my seat isn't super high. I have to run my rearview mirror as high as it can physically go, and it's still just a little bit of a blind spot where I have to tuck my head a little bit just to see if I'm turning to the right. I wish the rearview mirror would go up like 1/2 inch more, but Toyota's stuck in the spot they have, and it works fine. It's not an issue, but you should be aware if you're on the taller end, or if you like to drive with your seat higher to where you can see down more, you're gonna have to duck your head a little bit to avoid having a blind spot blocked by that rearview mirror. However, the view you have while driving is incredibly nice. With this black dash, there's absolutely no reflections onto the windshield. Toyota has added some cutouts to the hood, so it feels like you can see a little bit more. However, this is my position that I see when I'm driving. If I'm turning to the right, I kind of have to duck under just to gain a little bit more view from that mirror. So the next thing I want to point out to you that I've noticed a lot in newer cars, but something I think that Toyota has done exceptionally well, it's just how many places you have for storage and for throwing little things in your truck, but still being able to get to them and kind of keeping your interior nice and tidy. For example, inside your door, not only do you have all the normal storage and cup holders down here, there's also an extra little pocket underneath your door handle that can hold your phone or your wallet. And then directly to the right of your gear shift, you have a spot where you can actually put your phone right here. Have it normally sitting there, you can put it 1 notch down and still run a charging cord into it. And you have all the storage stuff right here that you can throw things. In fact, I can fit a camera in here, which is actually really large. And then on the passenger side, there's an entire little cutout above the glove compartment that's perfect for throwing things in. And they also have another slot underneath the door handle for more storage. In the back seat, there is yet another standard USB and then USB-C with a little storage compartment above them. And then the underseat storage is pretty unchanged from previous Toyota generations. My favorite use of the backseat storage is not to throw new things in, but just kind of keep some necessities in that you need whenever you need to grab them. So I have some random little tools in the bag, I have a roll of paper towels, you never know when you need that, and an umbrella. And all of this stuff fits in perfectly. It's kind of tucked in out of the way. You can throw some other stuff in here like bike pumps or winches, whatever you need, but it's just kind of tucked out of the way. It stays really nice and tidy underneath that rear seat. You do need to be aware of the fact that the storage under the rear seat is not something you can access while people are sitting back here while the back is loaded up. So if you're camping, you can throw some tools in here, but don't want it to be anything that you need to access very rapidly. Now, one of the things that comes with driving a vehicle very often is sometimes you just want to put a part on it that Toyota does not make. You want to throw in an aftermarket part. And the Tundra has been around for a long time, so there's a large support of aftermarket parts for it. And it's like the 3rd or 4th year that Toyota's been making the 3rd gen Tundras, which means there's plenty of support for any aftermarket part you want to put on it. For example, I have some non-Toyota floor liners, and these fit great. And any other part that you want to put on the vehicle that is not made directly from Toyota, you can find from literally any company you want. And speaking of just how well developed the aftermarket support is for Tundras, I've been able to find and use some pretty niche products. For example, this tailgate holder that holds your bikes on your tailgate. There are a lot of these made by different companies for this truck that fit it very, very well. And I've also been able to find a tent that goes over the bed, and I can camp out of that, which I find incredibly amazing. And it fits perfectly on this truck. So any kind of truck accessories you want, even if they're not super common, you're more than likely gonna be able to find for the Toyota Tundra, just because it's a very well-respected truck platform and it's been around for a while. So it's kind of built up some of that support over the years. Minor complaint I have about Tundras is if you know about their little kickdown tailgate, it's directly above the rear tire, and for whatever reason, it collects dirt really, really well. which is not bad at all. It's really easy to wash. However, sometimes a lot of mud and just dust and silt can build up, and when you go to take your first step on it, it's really slippery. But you should be aware that all of the dirt getting kicked up from your rear tire is kind of going straight onto this little step down and being collected by it. Now, if you're driving a pickup truck, you more than likely aren't super concerned with gas mileage. However, I'm able to consistently get my gas mileage into the 20-21 range on highway driving, and then up about 17 or 18 in the city, which is a really, really nice range for a full-size truck. However, keep in mind, I'm not towing anything, so this is kind of the maximum performance that you're gonna see. Now, I do need to point out that this truck is sitting on Bilstein suspension, and different models of the Tundra have different suspension. Some have Fox, but this has Bilstein. And one of the nice things is, on the rear axle, instead of having leaf spring suspension, it actually has some proper shocks. And that's really stiffened up the ride. It gives it more of like a little car feel, instead of like a big truck where there's a lot of body roll and the truck's kind of rolling around a little bit. It feels a lot more stiff, a lot more planned, and a lot more in the road. And it feels really, really nice to drive. It's a lot more responsive, and you feel less like you're sitting in a big truck and more like you're sitting in something that's a little bit more maneuverable, a little bit more responsive to your inputs. Now, even though it does have a little bit stiffer suspension and a little bit more planted feel, it does not come at the cost of it feeling rough. This still has a really smooth ride. It's really fun and enjoyable to sit in and ride in, even for long trips. And the nice thing about having different driving modes is you can actually tell the differences in each one. And I think basically all it does is adjust the RPMs that the engine sits at. But in eco mode, you can feel that the truck's a little bit more sluggish, a little bit slower to respond, especially to your throttle. However, your gas mileage noticeably goes up. And in normal mode, it feels exactly like how driving should feel. And then when you throw the truck into sport mode, it has a much faster response to the throttle, and everything feels a little bit more sporty and a little bit more responsive. Now, another thing that I would like to point out that is absolutely amazing on the Toyota Tundra is how good the infotainment system works. Your phone connects really, really seamlessly to the Bluetooth, and there's wireless Apple CarPlay with a display and a menu system for the truck that is very responsive and super easy to use. It's not a struggle, and it's not a hassle. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video with some of my impressions, some of the little quirks, and all the little things that I've noticed about the 3rd gen Toyota Tundra after driving it and kind of using it for about 6 months. So if you're interested in any other things or want to know any other details, or if you're interested in this vehicle, please comment down below. Let me know what you think of it. And just like that, that is the end of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you learned something, please leave a like, subscribe to my channel, share this video with your grandmother, maybe even get her a Tundra, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.